So you want a testimonial? Like, what
No.
specific?
Tell your story.
Just tell your story.
Okay, you want my story?
Yeah.
In a nutshell, real quick. So anytime, and I just want to check the time too, because what time were we?
This is a great
Okay, cool. We've
testimonial
got
so
till
far.
Yeah, sorry.
How has
Yeah.
John influenced you?
Oh my God. Okay, so it goes back to, I didn't know the first thing about online marketing. I didn't have any audience, nobody, like I was a ghost, but I realized I needed to figure out real fast how to make money when I quit my job without a safety net, without a plan. And so I realized also at my age, I wasn't going to start at the beginning and pay my dues. And I knew that I needed to connect with people who already had the audiences, who already had the credibility that I wanted to borrow. And so I bought John's program, Connecting with, is it Connect with Influencers or Connecting with Influencers? Yeah. And we got on the call and he's like, oh, how are you liking the program? And I'm like, I don't mean any disrespect, but I actually haven't gone through the program. I just wanted to talk to you. And and so
I remember that actually. I remember that call. Yeah, totally.
I remember exactly where I was sitting. I mean, this was like a profound moment in my life.
Wow.
And I do talk about it all the time. Because it's important for people to not pretend like they can do it all. They just all of a sudden, it's like, let's give credit where credit's due and talk about the process of how we got to where we are. And this was like the first pivotal moment in my journey as a business owner. And so I told him that that I was putting together this summit and that I would like him to be a guest.
Yeah.
So basically, I paid him for the program so that I could pitch him to be a guest on my summit. And we had a conversation, 20 minutes, I think turned into an hour. He asked me, who else do you need? What else do you need? He was really interested and engaged in what I was doing and in my story. And I told him, and then he's like, no problem. And sent out, I think, 5 introductions to people, just positioning the hell out of me by saying, to me, it was positioning the hell out of me. And this was like these were the big lessons that I saw and I've emulated since that John did just because of who John is. And he sent these emails that said, hey, so-and-so, I was talking with Nicole Holland. And, he said things like basically that he liked me and that he's excited to be involved in my summit and advises that they get involved too. And those people that he introduced me to, like Matt Williams, and I can't think of who else right now, I'd have to go look. But Matt Williams was huge because then he did exactly the same thing. Who do you need to know? What do you want? And I mean, so in 2015, I had a summit with some of the best people in the world and most generous people in the world. And I was a quote nobody, right?
Yeah, and then that turned into the podcast after that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I interviewed John. I got you on my podcast again. I went back to my summit people, and it just took off. That was a pivotal point for me that John helped me create my business.
Yeah. And as you say now, you the podcast then became the backbone which fed leads into the profitable business.
It was increasing my visibility and credibility without me knowing. I didn't realize what was happening. What I realized though was podcast guesting. And so I was passionate about making the experience a premium experience for anybody who was going to be on my show, to build a relationship with them, because that's who I am. That's how I like to do things. I like to, it's not a wham bam, thank you. And so I would get into these relationships because of the podcast. So yeah, but then here's another place that John came back into my world, and John and I had a catch-up call. Thank you. And he's like, oh, how are things going? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, so I am so people are loving this and it's so exciting and I'm so passionate about it. And it's like, people are coming on my show and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I've never been treated like this before. So I'm writing a book. I'm so excited. It was going to be an ebook just for like a giveaway, but I'm already, 12, I don't even know how many, I think it was like 12 hours and I couldn't stop writing. I'm like, I'm going to keep writing and I'm going to publish this book. And John's like, yeah, you might want to hold on to that thought. And I'm like, what, why? And he's like, no, you need to first do a program. Got to make sure that people want this information. That's great
Yeah.
that you got it, but you have to make sure that people aren't just saying thanks, but they're going to pay you. And I'm like, and he's like, and he also said, like, you don't want to pay to have a book. You want people to pay you to build it. So try with a beta course. But it was really John whose advice really has just always. So like, even what I do now, it goes back to that, right? I'm doing the podcasting goldmine as a beta for 3K instead of 7,500, which is what I want to do it for. And it's like, I'm gonna prove it. I'm going to have all of that done and have people pay me to create the content.
That's awesome.
And I've heard it, right? Like I heard it. I even got a program from Lead Pages. I got all this other stuff that has told me this over the years, but it did not sink in until John spoke it. So it's just really interesting.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, Nicole. Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank